Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Brandon here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Crystal, and she's selling their display advertising, affiliate, and Amazon Associates business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So welcome to the show, Crystal, and how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I'm really excited to speak to you about this business that you've created. But before we get into the details of the business, why don't we give a general overview? So it is a display advertising, affiliate, and Amazon Associates business in the parenting, home, and lifestyle niches. And it was created in March 2017. The average monthly revenue for the business is $3,722 and makes an average of $3,692 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 55652 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So now that I've given a general overview of the business, what's included in the sale is the domain and the site's content and files, one additional domain, a Pinterest account, and standard operating procedures. So Crystal, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure. This site was actually my first content-based online business, and I've spent the last 4.5 years kind of growing it, learning a bit about what it takes to run a business like this. About a year after I started this business, I actually started a second content-based business in a different niche. And 18 months after I started that, I actually sold that business. So I've been doing this for about 4.5 years and almost 5 years, and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's amazing. Now, where was it that you got the idea to start in, the display advertising affiliate Amazon Associate space? Was there something during your startup time in content sites that you noticed as a great potential with these monetizations?
Well, I had just had a baby, so I was working a lot out of the home, and I was kind of missing out a lot of the, important milestones and stuff like that. So I was looking for work from home type things that I could do so I could stay at home with my son. And then I came across an article that talked about content-based businesses and how they make money, and it really sparked my interest. So I just kind of said, okay, did a little bit of research, talked to some groups, did some things, and eventually just kind of dived into this type of business and picked my niche and just kind of ran with it. A few months later, I actually left one of my jobs. And then a few months after that, I left my second job and went full time on the business.
Wow. So you really did go all in, as you had mentioned. That's really great. Now, what would you say is driving the majority of the revenue for the business? Is most of it coming through your display advertising revenue, or would you say majority is coming from Amazon or some of the affiliate revenue?
It's definitely coming through the display ads. Those are run through AdThrive, and they have been absolutely fantastic. I don't have to basically lift a finger for anything. I do create videos from time to time for the website, and it goes through the AdThrive kind of dashboard, and they just attach ads to the video, and then you put a code in your site, and boom, you have video ads on your site. So AdThrive makes things really easy, and I am very happy with the revenue, everything that I get from them. So I've really been appreciative of AdThrive and what they do.
That's really great to hear that you've had that experience with them. And I know we've had a lot of sellers that have also been on this podcast that mentioned AdThrive is a great display advertising network to work with. So I guess you just solidified that as well for us. Now, if the business is doing so great at this time, Crystal, why is it that you've decided that you would like to sell it?
Well, honestly, after 2020, my priorities just kind of changed. I'm homeschooling my son. My husband is starting his business, and I just kind of feel like now's the time for me to step back and just kind of focus on my family life. I just kind of want to take a step back, take care of my kid, homeschool my kid, support my husband in his business, and just kind of go personal for a little while.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. And yeah, it's great that you have the opportunity now. You can make an exit and really focus on the family. If that's ultimately, something that you want, it's great that you have that opportunity to do so. Now, was there anything that you learned while growing this business that you might plan on applying to future or maybe current projects down the road?
Definitely. But like I learned a lot with this site, first being that the more content you have, the more traffic and revenue you make. It's endless. There really is no like you've reached a peak. You can't really reach a peak in this type of business. So it's all about how much you're willing to put into it. So if I did start another content based business, it would definitely be in a different niche, mainly because the parenting niche can get a bit personal for me, that it really is better if you just kind of, it's not something that I'm really interested in pursuing, as well as I'm selling this. And but I learned a lot, and I'm sure there are things that I could apply to the next business. But because it would be in a different niche, I don't know how much of it would actually kind of transfer well. There would always be tweaks and things that I would need to do in order to cater to a totally different audience.
I guess that's a really great mention as well, too. And also, I guess that goes into building that target audience, right? That target audience specifically has certain traits and certain types of topics or keywords that they're searching for, right? So that's completely understandable. Was there any software or tools that really helped you at the start of building this business?
Tailwind, which is my Pinterest scheduler. So Tailwind is absolutely hands down the best tool I've used for this. It makes life really easy. At the beginning of this, I was doing manual pinning for my marketing. So every day, like several times a day, I was jumping on Pinterest and pinning things from my articles to Pinterest. And it was just really time consuming. Tailwind takes all of that away. You can sit down for an hour, schedule out all your pins, and be done. For up to like, I had it at one point, I sat down for about 3 hours and just uploaded a whole bunch of pictures to my website, and then used Tailwind to schedule out like 6 months worth of marketing. And it was done. And I didn't have to touch Pinterest for 6 months because of it. So it's definitely a game changer, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's really great to hear that. Was there anything that you tried with this business and it just didn't give you the return that you were expecting?
Yeah, actually, I tried email marketing and it just did not work for me. But let me just say that it was not the niche. I know many people in the parenting niche who do email marketing and have just amazing successes with it. The fact that this didn't work absolutely fell on me, as I am not great at email marketing. So that's something that, if somebody knows what they're doing and can kind of check that out, they're going to succeed at email marketing on this. This was absolutely a failure on my part.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I guess that's, ultimately setting the roadmap or maybe the foundation for someone to come in and with a little bit of experience in email marketing, they could ultimately push this business to its full potential in that regard. So, a great opportunity, great chance for a buyer to come in and maybe utilize that foundation that you've already built for them to grow out that channel. Now, speaking of channels, where would you say that the majority of your traffic is coming from? Is most of it coming through organic search, or do you have other sources that are bringing in traffic to the website?
Actually, the majority of my traffic actually comes through Pinterest, but I know that this particular niche can get traffic from Instagram and Facebook too. I just never got around to putting effort into those two platforms. And luckily, like I've included, what I do with Pinterest in the SOP that's included with the sale of the site.
Yeah, that's really great that you already have that included, and ultimately having the operations procedures laid out for a new buyer to follow is really a great opportunity and a great asset to have as well as a buyer. And, on the subject of building out your operations, can you walk us through what are some of the weekly tasks or some of the weekly work that you're doing on the business at this time?
This business is kind of work on it as much as you want or as little as you want. So there have been times where things are going great for me, summertime, my kid's busy playing games or doing whatever he wants to do. So I get more time in my day, and I can do about 2 hours a day worth of work. And that's just writing the content, creating the pictures, and scheduling them out on Pinterest. And then there are times that life is just kind of hectic, so I don't have a lot of time. So I might spend 5 hours one day in a month and kick out a new piece of content, maybe do some Pinterest scheduling or marketing in that aspect. But realistically, this is kind of one of those, the more work you put into it as far as creating content and marketing, the more you're going to get out of it. I notice on the month where I'm posting very regularly, my traffic increases about 4 weeks later, which is about the time that it takes for new content to be spotted, seen, and then start getting shared by people, at least in my experience on this site. So when I'm putting in a lot of extra work, I get more traffic. When I'm not, it just stays the same. It just same amount of traffic, same amount of income, same amount of everything. So it's really dependent on what somebody wants to put into it.
Okay. And then on the subject of putting the work into it, are you writing and publishing all of the content for the website, or have you outsourced this feature to maybe some freelance writers?
Right now, I am the main contributor on the site. I have done a few guest posts from time to time where I've had other people contribute to the blog, but I have not hired any freelance writers at this time.
Okay. And is your writing process detailed in the SOPs that are included for the buyer as well?
Yes.
Okay. So they could come in, ultimately, if they had their own writers, they could come in and ultimately produce the same level of content that you've been producing for the business?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, awesome. Now, do you feel that there's any particular skill set that a buyer should have prior to taking on this business, or do you think that most of the workload can be learned during the transition period?
Most of it can be learned during the transition period, but if somebody's coming in with the intention that they're going to hire writers for it, vet your writers to make sure that they understand who the audience is. That is my biggest form of advice here. You want to make sure that the writers are catering their content to the exact audience that's coming in.
Yeah, it makes total sense. You want to make sure that you're keeping that brand voice, especially if your audience is so adamant on staying up to date with your content. You want to make sure that that's the same. So completely understood there. Now, what would you say hypothetically, if you were to keep this business, what are some of the ways that you would try and personally grow it?
Honestly, it would just be hiring a bunch of writers and putting out daily content. So you figure you hire 5 or 7 writers and each one of them is writing one piece of content. And from what I understand for this particular niche, most of the time that's actually pretty easy to come across as far as the writers go. And if each of 7 writers are writing one piece of content a week, you schedule out a new piece of content every single day to go out, you're going to see exponential growth in traffic, revenue, and everything else.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And on the flip side of that, what do you feel are maybe some of the potential risks associated with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
The main source of traffic is Pinterest. Pinterest has been pretty stable for me throughout for the past 4.5 years. So I personally haven't had much of an issue with Pinterest, even through all of their algorithm changes, because they change their algorithm often. My kind of strategy with Pinterest is very stick to the basics, throw in a few things as they say to. But because all the traffic is coming from one place, it's kind of like having all your eggs in one basket. So I would say the buyer should be focused on opening up the marketing to Facebook, Instagram, maybe bringing in an SEO person, and even email marketing. I would recommend that they kind of expand the marketing reach. And like I said, because I have Pinterest basically running on autopilot, it's so easy to just kind of, okay, well, a buyer could just focus on, new marketing strategies.
Yeah, completely understand. And I'm sure, all of our potential buyers as well listening out there can also see the value in some of those roadmaps or potential avenues they have to go down in order to scale the business even further. Now, Crystal, are you willing to commit to a non-compete, meaning once the deal is done, you'll stay out of this specific niche for the required time?
Yes.
Perfect. And then how much support are you willing to offer potential buyers? Are you going with the typical 30 days of email and call support, or did you have something in addition that you would like to add on to that?
Well, I'm happy to offer the email for 30 days, but quite honestly, I am available even beyond that. So 90 days down the road, you have a question, you have something, I'm, more than willing to kind of be like, well, this is my experience. This is, where you could go with that, so if somebody wants to expand the different avenues that this site makes money, there are a couple of options that are available, and I would be happy to offer opinion and support in some of that.
Yeah, it's really great to hear that. And I'm sure our potential buyers can also see the value in that added support you're willing to offer them to make sure that the business continues to succeed. So that's really great to hear that. Now, are you open to negotiating something like an earnout where you'll receive a large portion of the sales price up front and then smaller payments closing out the deal shortly after that?
Not at this time. The sale of this business is in part going to help my husband start his own tech-based business, and tech is expensive. So I really cannot do an earnout at this time.
Yeah, completely understandable. And that's always something that is always good to note on these calls as well, too. Now, final question for this interview, wrapping this up. Putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think that this business is worth buying?
The branding. Hands down, the branding on this site is phenomenal. It really does have the potential to turn into kind of like a BuzzFeed for parenting, So it's kind of like, it's just designed to be a kind of magazine site that has potential for a very long time.
Yeah, it's always great when you have an evergreen niche site like this one in particular that will, stay relevant for years to come. And it's really great to see that you've built this foundation. And I'm sure our potential buyers that are looking at this listing can also see the value in what you've established here. And that pretty much wraps up this call, Crystal. Was there anything else that you'd like to add that I might have missed?
Nope.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for jumping on and giving us a little bit of a background story and hearing how you started this business. And I'm looking forward to seeing this listing getting sold for you on our marketplace here in the near future.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. And all right, everyone, thank you for listening. To learn more and to see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 55652. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.